Military history is full of big ideas, some so big they couldn't help but crash and burn. Today we're taking a look at the wildest military mega projects that promised to change the world but ended up more oops than awesome. These are the stories of ships that sank faster than you can say,
"This is a really bad idea."
Planes that barely made it off the ground, and designs that looked better on paper than in real life. So sit back and get ready to chuckle as we dive into some of the most spectacular military misfires in history. It's going to be a bumpy ride. These are the stories of the biggest military projects that went horribly wrong. The Zumwalt-Class Destroyer was supposed to be the Navy's crown jewel, stealthy, sleek, and packed with cutting-edge tech. With a price tag of $3.8 billion per ship, it was the most expensive destroyer ever built. The plan? To build 32 of these futuristic vessels. The reality? Only 3 were ever made because costs spiraled out of control. Now let's talk about what went wrong. First off, the ship's stealthy design, with its cool angular shape, was meant to slip past enemy radar. But in rough seas, this stealthy ship had a not-so-stealthy problem. It struggled with stability. Then there's the advanced gun system, a fancy weapon designed to fire precision-guided shells. Sounds awesome, right? Until you realize each shell costs nearly $800,000. So expensive that the Navy couldn't afford to use them. But if you think this is wild, wait until you hear about the next mega projects on our list. It'll make the Zumwalt's troubles look like smooth sailing. If you thought the Zumwalt-Class Destroyer was a budget buster, just wait until you hear about the Littoral Combat Ship program, designed to be nimble, versatile, and perfect for close-to-shore combat. The LCS was supposed to be the Navy's next big thing. Instead, it became one of the biggest military budget boondoggles of the last 50 years, with a price tag exceeding $30 billion. So, what went wrong? These ships were meant to be fast and adaptable, but they turned out to be underarmed, under-armored, and incredibly expensive to maintain. To make matters worse, their mission modules, designed to swap out for different combat roles, proved unreliable. The result? A fleet of ships so problematic that the Navy started mothballing them almost as soon as they were built. And here's the kicker. The Navy had to purchase licensing rights to build Italian frigates to fill the gap left by the LCS's failures. A move practically unheard of in U.S. naval history. But before you think this is as bad as it gets, just wait until you see what's next on our list. Military failures. There's always a gem in the mix. One of my personal favorites is the Churchill Grand Panjandrum, a rocket-powered wheel of death designed to smash through German fortifications on D-Day. Picture this, a giant spinning wheel equipped with rockets meant to roll into enemy defenses and cause chaos. Sounds like a great plan, right? Well, not quite. The Grand Panjandrum had a few issues. First, the rockets burned at different rates, making the wheel unstable and unpredictable. There was no way to steer it. Once it was set in motion, it could veer off course. That was thanks to sand, rocks, or even crabs. In one test, it did a full 180-degree turn and headed straight back at the people who lit it up. But wait, there's more. The device was supposed to detonate on a timer, but without reliable guidance, it could blow up anytime, maybe right in the midst of the troops it was supposed to support. The thought of 500 pounds of high explosive going off unexpectedly among soldiers sprinting up the beach is enough to make anyone question their sanity. After a few disastrous test runs, the project was quickly abandoned. If you think this is a wild ride, just hang tight for the next one on our list. Let's talk about a project that's the definition of so close yet so far, the RAH-66 Comanche. Conceived during the Cold War, this futuristic helicopter was meant to replace the iconic Huey Cobra and Kiowa helicopters with a cutting-edge stealthy design. But after 22 years and a staggering $6.9 billion spent, the Comanche delivered exactly 0 operational helicopters. The Comanche was supposed to be the next big thing in armed reconnaissance, but it quickly became a textbook case of technology being outpaced by current events. One major hurdle was its ability to actually get off the ground when fully loaded. Turns out the high-tech design wasn't so great in practice. The program was finally scrapped in 2004, leaving only 2 prototypes to tell the tale. It's a striking example of how even the most ambitious plans can go awry when reality doesn't quite match the vision. Stick around, our next project might just top this in terms of sheer "what were you thinking" moments. Gather round for the tale of the Vasa, a Swedish warship that promised to be the pride of the Baltic Sea, until it became a masterclass in how not to build a ship. Picture this. The year is 1628 and King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden wants a warship that screams power and "don't mess with us." Enter the Vasa, an extravagant vessel armed with 64 bronze cannons and boasting more ornate carvings than a royal banquet table. The ship was the envy of every nation, a floating fortress set to intimidate any foe. But there was just one small problem. It wasn't exactly seaworthy. On its maiden voyage, with the eyes of Stockholm watching, and the wind filling its sails, the Vasa managed to sail a grand total of about 1,400 yards before it tipped over and sank.
The ship simply filled with water and sank like a stone. It was probably gone within 10 minutes.
Whoops. Turns out the ship's top-heavy design was more about looking fabulous than staying afloat. The builders knew about the instability but were too afraid to tell the king. So they just hoped for the best and, well, the rest is history. Hold on to your hats for the tale of Avro Canada VZ9 Avro Car, a project that aimed to make sci-fi dreams come true, but ended up being more oops than whoa. In the 1950s, Canada embarked on a $5 million venture to create a real-life flying saucer. The idea was to design a futuristic vehicle that could hover, fly, and turn on a dime. A sleek saucer-shaped machine that promised to glide through the air like something straight out of a comic book. The Avro car was the brainchild of some very ambitious engineers, but when it finally took to the skies, it was less high-tech marvel and more hovering disappointment. Instead of soaring smoothly, it wobbled and bobbed like a clunky toy, struggling to maintain a few feet of altitude. The propulsion system was more of a "let's see if this works" experiment than a reliable feature, and the handling was, to put it mildly, less than stellar. Despite its promise and the hefty budget, the Avro car failed to live up to its sci-fi hype. By the 1960s, the project was scrapped, leaving behind a few prototypes and a lot of unanswered questions. The Avro car, with its wobbly flight and sci-fi dreams gone awry, turned out to be more comic book than cutting-edge tech. But if you think this is the peak of military mishaps, hold on tight. Our next project is a roller coaster of ambition and failure that's sure to leave you in awe. As we wrap up our tour of military misfires, let's dive into the tale of the B-70 Valkyrie, a bomber that was supposed to revolutionize high-speed flight, but instead became a symbol of ambition gone awry. The B-70 was designed to fly at Mach 3 and evade enemy defenses with its cutting-edge technology. Unfortunately, technical issues plagued the project from the start. The Valkyrie faced severe problems with its engineers and structural integrity, making it nearly impossible to achieve the promised performance. The program racked up an eye-watering cost of around $1.5 billion, but only a few prototypes were built before the project was cancelled in the late 1960s. Tragically, the program also cost lives. One of the prototypes crashed during a test flight, resulting in the deaths of both pilots on board. And that's the B-70 Valkyrie, a high-flying dream that turned into a costly crash course. From stealthy disasters to bombers that couldn't quite bomb, we've had a blast exploring these epic military failures. Thanks for tuning into Biggest Military Projects That Went Horribly Wrong on Invictus. If you enjoyed our tour through military mishaps, hit like, subscribe, and the bell icon, because who knows what other glorious flops we'll dig up next. Stay tuned and keep laughing.